Greetings, folks. Welcome to another edition of After Hours. Tonight, I am joined all the way from the Czech Republic by Mr. Nick Gerrard. How are you doing, sir?
I'm fine, thanks.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah. How long have you been out there, then?
Oh, God. Must be about 15 years now, I think.
Yeah. You're originally from Brum, aren't you? So
I'm from Brum, right.
Yeah,
the home of heavy metal.
Yeah. I actually lived in the West Midlands for about 6 years.
Okay.
2 of those years were in Birmingham. So
Okay.
yeah.
Where else did you live in the West Midlands?
Dudley and Wolverhampton. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Wolverhampton.
Yeah. Dudley was great. I really liked Dudley.
nice people in Dudley. Wolverhampton.
Yeah.
It's another
some great pubs. Yeah.
It's another place we don't like, really. If you're from Birmingham, you don't really like people from Wolverhampton,
Yeah. It's really funny.
Especially with the football teams. I'm a West Brom fan.
You're baggy, are you?
Yeah, so we hate the Wolves, So yeah.
That was really funny because you being Dudley, being sort of slap bang in between the two. We always used to get the pub I worked in. We always used to get both sides in, and they were mates. So you get one of my mates coming in a bloody baggies shirt and another one in a Wolves shirt. It's just, oh Christ, here we go.
we call them our old name for them is tatters. Like to tat, the verb to tat, or tatty, like
tatting.
Tatty.
Yeah, flogging crap.
That was they would always go around. We call it the tatter's yard. Like the junk yard.
Yeah. Like the rag and bone men and all that.
Yeah, that's what Wolverhampton people are tatters. Yeah.
Oh, right. Nice. I haven't heard that one. I'll remember that next time I speak to my mates from Wolves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah. Cheers, mate. Yeah. So, work. I've just been having a look into it. A lot of your stuff comes from like personal experience, doesn't it? From what I can tell.
Yeah, a lot does. Yeah. I've lived a varied life, let's say.
Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of my short stories are kind of based on people I know or people I've met. I use my imagination as well, obviously.
Of course. Yeah.
And then my short novel, Punk Novelette, which was out last year.
Yeah.
That's kind of based on my own experiences as a punk rocker, and and kind of use your experiences and people you know. I mean, I think that's most writers do that anyway.
Yes, I do it. Yeah, I do it myself. So yeah.
And my short stories, I write mostly short stories, so a lot of that is, actually. A lot of his experience. I wrote Graffiti Stories, was a collection of kind of the underbelly of society, and then the latest one, Struggle and Strife, is all about the working class fighting back.
I saw it's quite a lot about like trade unionists and all that.
Unionists, environmentalists, refugees, and things like that. And there, you kind of, I've never been a refugee, so you kind of have to put yourself in their shoes and kind of. Use your experience. I was a trade union shop steward for a while, so I used that and then transferred it to Argentina, if you know what I mean. And
I do things like that, like sort of extrapolate my own experience to somewhere else.
Although I have lived in Brazil and stuff like that, so you get some experience in South America from there, So you kind of I'm writing. I'm in the middle of writing my next book, which is called 28 Flash, which is going to be just because it sounds good. 28 Flash sounds good. Not 27, punchy, not 26, not 24. 28 Flash. So I'm going to do 28 Flash stories.
Nice.
And I'm about halfway through, and actually, I've used kind of different things to influence me there. Actually, listening to some music, listening to some songs has kind of inspired me to write something.
I have that. I've done a few that have been like inspired by songs.
Songs and just something you read on the internet, or something somebody says or something like that.
Things I've seen in the supermarket. It's like, how can I turn that murderous?
Nice, nice. That tin of sardines on the shelf looks murderous.
Yeah. That's
I'm glad you're vaping as well, so we can have a
oh
vape.
yeah, man, go for it. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So I've been in Czech about 15 years, but I used to live in the mountains. My wife and I ran a eco tourist lodge.
Oh,
For
brilliant.
about 7 or 8 years.
Nice.
Which was an experience, to say the least.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Minus 34 some years, 2 meters of snow, and yeah, it was an experience. But then we had a kid, and then it became more difficult. So we moved to Olomouc, which is a city about 2 hours from Prague. Just, complete one extreme to the other. We were completely isolated in the mountains. Now I live right in the historical center of a beautiful. If you imagine the old town of Prague, Olomouc is like that. It's like that. The whole of Olomouc is like that. Right.
So, yeah, it's like that, but on a smaller scale and without all the tourists.
Yeah, without all the tourists and all the
stagnites.
Yes, stagnites. Yeah, Christ almighty.
Yeah.
I think the British are responsible for 25% of the crime of a weekend in Prague. You know that?
That doesn't surprise me in the slightest. That really doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
It's terrifying when you read these statistics, isn't it?
I try to avoid. When I go to Prague, I don't speak any English at all. I just speak Czech, so that they don't think that I'm British, because we're not very welcomed there, to be honest. So.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though. I mean, you got so many of us lot going out there and making a complete bloody nuisance of themselves. You can't really blame the locals. Can forget a bit cheesed off with us, to be fair.
Well,
can you?
No, I understand it completely. So yeah, but we're welcomed in Olomouc because there's not many tourists. So if somebody finds out you're English, and it's like, oh, they were really interested in you, and we'll have a chat. Yeah. Excuse me.
There's I've never been to the Czech Republic. It's somewhere I've always had on my list, but I've never really wanted to go to. I wanted to see Prague, but not really sort of go there because of the tourists. So whenever I go on holidays, it's always sort of like not the tourist place.
Yeah, it's difficult to avoid them in Prague. It is.
Yeah.
I think I've been to most of the major cities. Somewhere like Paris or Berlin or London can kind of. The tourists don't swamp the place; they don't overrun it, because they're big enough to kind of take the tourists in. You can go to London and avoid the tourists. Berlin.
If you know where you're going, you can avoid them.
But Prague's only 1 million people, so it's kind of they've really overtaken. If you go to somewhere like Lisbon, they're not as prominent. Even in Barcelona, it's not that bad, but in Prague, it's absolutely completely overrun with tourists, and they need to do something about it to stop it. Really, it's a shame, really, because I met my wife in Czech about 20 odd years ago, and we used to be able 25 years ago, you could go to old Prague and it would be Czech students in the old town having a beer, there'd be some live music here and stuff like that. Not anymore. It's all gone. It's not full of Czechs. It's all full of tourists or expats who've taken over the bars in the old town, really. So, which is a pity. You have to go outside of the center to find local people, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't understand these British people who go abroad, and the first thing they do is try and find an English pub and eat egg and chips. I mean, what's the fucking point? It's just like I go abroad to see different cultures and stuff.
Yeah, I lived in Lisbon for 2 years, and we lived right in the center, and learned Portuguese, and I was out with the Portuguese and getting drunk far too much and stuff like that. But up the coast, there's a small town called Cascais, and Estoril. There's about 10 golf courses, so it gives you an idea what the kind of place it is.
Okay,
they have their own English newspaper. They have Scottish country dancing and horse riding for the disabled and things like that. And we used to go up there. we would go up there because once every couple of months we'd say, let's go up and we'll have an English Sunday, and we go to an English pub watch the English football, have roast beef, and watch his
Sunday
Red Barrel.
Yeah.
It was quite nice to visit every kind of like 8 weeks, you know, it's great to be back in England.
It's almost
Just the one day though.
Nostalgic.
We watch the football and then in The Simpsons and then go back to civilization. Really.
So I never got it. Like one of my exes. It was like we went. She booked it and everything. We went over to Lanzarote, right? And I know, right? And I was just okay. But I got there. It's like, right, I'm going up the volcano. I'm going out on the catamaran. I'm going down the old town and hanging out with the local fisher because I was a chef for like 20 odd years. So it's like I was
a chef as well.
Nice. Yeah. So many of us are like ex-chefs are now writers. I was speaking to another one the other week.
F-chefs, writers, and alcoholics.
Yes, pretty much. Yeah, that's pretty much it, isn't it? Yeah.
You ever met a sober chef? I never met one.
No, never. No, anyway, I have actually one. I've met one. I worked with him very briefly, and I had to sack him because he was shit.
There you go.
Hey, it says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah. Did you read Anthony Bourbon's book about Kitchen Confidential? Anthony Bourbon. He's a guy who had he had a TV show in the UK as well.
Oh yes.
Chef. He wrote a book called Kitchen Confidential. That's how he started. And
I never read it, but I remember hearing about it. Yeah.
It's worth reading because it's all like all the chefs on cocaine and sulfate and drinking their faces off, and all the dodgy dealings going on in the back, and then the pubs after. And actually, kind of quite a lot of chefs didn't like it because it kind of like revealing our secrets, the secret world of the chefs, the underground world of chefs.
The underground subculture, yeah.
Well, it kind of was. I remember working in Manchester. I worked in Manchester for, and then, you know, the restaurants closed. This was when pubs closed at 10:30 or whatever. So restaurants close at 11. What are you going to do? You're not going to go home and watch. There was no bloody late night TV.
No, the same. I mean, because I started because I'm originally from Macclesfield.
Okay.
So I worked it out in Manchester. Like when I first left school, I got a job in the area, like down in Wimslow. I first worked, and then I moved up to working up in Manchester. And the pubs were kicking out at like last orders, you know, for kicking out time just when you're finishing. So it was often parties and strip clubs were the one because they were open late.
Yeah, there were two places in Manchester where all the chefs and waiters would go. One was like a hotel down the Oxford Road, and they had a bar downstairs, and that was open all night. Then there was right in the centre was the Press Club. I don't know if you ever went there, and it was where all the guys who worked in the Manchester Guardian. And the printers would go.
The evening news, yeah.
And all the
it was like Manchester's Fleet Street there, wasn't
it? And there were pubs that were the Press Club had a license to open at kind of like 2 o'clock in the morning. They opened, and so that was full of chefs and croupiers from the casinos and the press and stuff like that.
Yeah. We had a deal.
Great bars, though. I mean, they were.
We had a deal with one of the local casinos. Actually, funnily enough, where I worked in Dudley, we had a deal with the local casino.
The casino in Dudley, bloody
hell. Yeah. Bizarre, isn't it? It's like down the bottom next to the hotel. The one hotel has got a casino next to it, and in between it is Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall. just bizarre. And over the road was the big rock club, JB's, which is where I practically lived for the entire time I was in the Midlands. I was pretty much either, if I weren't at work, I'd be in there. So
I've been there since the 80s or maybe even the 70s. I went to see some gigs. I think I saw the Dam there, 1979.
Nice. That's funny. I'm wearing a Damned t-shirt.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Big fan of the Damned. Yeah.
And you're a fan of Play Dead as well, aren't you?
I am, yes.
I was watching some of your videos
right. Yeah, no, the guitarist, Steve Green, he's one of my best mates. One of the weirdest thing was, when I moved into this flat, I just had an injury, so I weren't very good at like painting and stuff like that. So he come and decorated for me. It's really bizarre seeing somebody who's been on the tube decorating your ceiling in a flat cap, you know, giving it that with the rollers.
Well, it's funny because I started. I was talking to a guy about stuff we listened to in the 80s, because I was a punk kind of 77, 78. I'm quite old, and then he was asking me what I listened to in the 80s, and I was kind of like going through bands, and I was kind of like, well, kind of Psychedelic Furs, Killing Joke, Play Dead. Play Dead. I remember Play Dead, and I was actually, just before I read you, knew him or whatever. I would been playing their album on the YouTube and stuff.
Oh, excellent.
The Tenant and stuff like that. So
great.
Yeah, they were a great live band, really, kind of, and they were quite punky, weren't they? I mean, I know
they classed themselves as post-punk. They came after Killing Joke. I mean, Killing Joke were the biggest influence on them in terms of their sound. It was that similar, but I mean, they had a lot of crossovers. I mean, because I'm an unashamed goth, and I would sort of call them as a post-punk / goth band, because you know.
Yeah, but I write in my book about punk is that I hated all the labels. I think.
Oh, mate, yeah.
The origin, the thing about punk was that it was anything new. So I liked people from. I loved the Damned. I loved the Clash as well. And from that, I loved Crass, you know, anarcho band.
The anarchists and proper anarcho stuff.
Yeah, well, but I went to see them. There was us and GBH, I think, in the audience. It was above the Co-op in Birmingham, where nobody played. Only Crass ever played there. And there were just these weird guys in jumpsuits with bald heads, and they come on stage, and there's all these anarchist symbols, and they were showing films, and it was a whole kind of mad experience. It was something I'd never seen before, you know, going to Damned and Clash gigs and the UK subs and stuff like that. This was something completely new, and it was like, and I hated it when you could only like them, or you liked you either like Discharge, Exploited, and GBH. Was like, well, why can't you like both? You know what I mean? And it's the same after.
I never got that. I never understood that. Yeah. That sort of like elitism. I mean, we got it a lot in the sort of goth scene. It was like, oh, you like the industrial stuff, so why do you, you know? And it was just like, but it's just, I like it. I don't care what it's called. I just like it.
I mean, Susie and the Banshees were originally a punk band, and you know, the Slits completely different kind of music. The Slits, the Jam, and the Damned. You could put a completely different kinds of music, and that was the whole point. The whole point was to be different.
Totally, they were all so different.
A different sound, you know. And
I mean, I think that's what I think that's what did the worst thing for the punk scene. Is that after a while you got all these bands that were basically the Pistols light. Yeah, you had a whole bunch of them. Like they all sounded the same. None of them had any balls to them. It'd become a scene. It was not. You know. Yeah.
It'd become uniform, didn't it? And I think that was the whole point of what punk was not. You know. Yeah. So in the 80s, I stopped kind of going to those punk, you know, I stopped wearing leather jackets and spiky hair and stuff ages ago, because it was kind of like passé, if you know what I mean. And I wore different stuff I could get from jumble sales, and would go and see Theatre of Eight, Spear of Destiny, Southern Death.
Two of my favourite bands there.
Southern Death Cult. I love
another one,
When they were Southern Death Cult.
When they were Southern Death Cult, and then the Death Cult, and then the Cult.
The Cult,
And that album, that Southern Death Cult album, is amazing. I've got that vinyl there.
And they were brilliant live, really great live. I caught him. I met him in a squat in London, and I'd never heard of him. And showing my ignorance, because I'd been in France or something. I come back, I stayed there and met him. He said, "I'm in this band, Southern Death Cult. I've never heard of you, mate." And then realised, I looked in. There was another guy in his flat who was doing fanzines. and there was all sudden death cult. I said, I better look into this band.
Yeah.
And realized that they were quite big at the time. As an underground band, and they were really good, So and he was a nice bloke actually, Ian Ashbury. I think
Ian, I've met Ian Ashbury myself. Yeah,
he went a bit strange when he was in America for a while.
Yeah, when he thought he was Jim Morrison.
No, I don't know if you've seen there's a video of him. He married. I don't know if he married or he was with this real American chick, like ultra kind of poppy bubblegum American girl, and it was him and her going shopping in this supermarket and just talking absolute bullshit. And what happened to you, man? I can't believe what happened to you. Have a look for it. Ian Ashbury goes shopping or something like that.
I will. I'll have a look at that. It's fully enough. Steve Green from Play Dead tells some funny stories about the Cults. They toured together in Europe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right. They toured together in Europe. Yeah.
Do you know a band called the Gypsy Pistoleros?
I don't. No.
Okay.
No.
I just had a short story published. I wrote about his life. It's called Born a Rocker, Die a Rocker. It's about Lee. He's been in bands since he was 14, playing in the Irish club in Kidderminster. You know Kidderminster near Brum?
Oh, I know Kiddie. I worked in Kiddie for a few weeks I worked for Whitbread, and and I got sent over to a pub in Kiddie as a relief worker for a bit because they were shafted. They were like, "Can you go and work over there?" So I went over on my motorbike, and I turn up, in my leathers, and my hair was in braids at the time, like down here. And they all looked at me like I just dropped off the moon. It was like, "Hey, up, I'm your chef."
Well, Lee started in the Irish club in Kidderminster. That was a punk place. Right. Neon Hearts played there. It was about the biggest band that ever played there. And he's been in bands ever since, since 1977. He was 14 in a band called Regular Wretches. And he just did... He did a one-man show in Edinburgh. He does some acting as well. He did a one-man show about how he messed up every opportunity to sign. He was about to sign the band that signed the Cult. Were just about to sign him, and the guy took a drink of his beer, and Lee threatened him, and he lost the contract. And then they signed
Beggars
the
Banquet.
Yeah, something like that. Oh, Creation Records, was it Creation?
Oh, Creation Records. Yeah.
And his show is all about, and I write this in my short story. It's about him not quite making it. All the bands he's been in, not quite making it. He toured with Motorhead for 3 years and played with the Ramones, and they toured with, had a fight with Slash from Guns N' Roses. And I mean, this guy has got stories coming out of his ass, you know what I mean?
Oh, man. I'll have to check this guy out. I really will. It sounds like my kind of guy.
Well, they got a new album out. I'm pushing his album here, Gypsy Pistoleros. And I wrote a story based on his play. But I was more optimistic because even though I think he stuck to his punk ideals, and
yes,
and did he make it? It's like, well, how do you measure success?
Exactly. I've always wondered about that because I've had people say, "Oh, they never made it," and I was like, "Well, in my opinion, they did. I mean, I followed them around the bloody country. I think they made it."
Yeah,
I bought their records.
Is it Rocklahoma in America, the big festival every year? They headlined there for 3 years or something, Gypsy Pistoleros, and quite a few of his bands. He was on TV and stuff like that. But the point is that like in my short novel, punk novelette, it's about, punk gave us the ethos to get out of the situation we were. There was no jobs, or if you just worked in a factory or whatever. And for 45 years, he's been living the rock and roll lifestyle, and doing it. So in my book, he did make it. He's like, okay, you're not a millionaire, Jim Morrison, a billionaire, but you made a living out of it, and he did what he enjoyed for all his life. So in my opinion, he's a success, and he and he stuck to his punk ideals, and maybe that's why he didn't make it. But
well, the thing is, I mean, would he be any happier if he did sell out and made it then? He probably wouldn't be any happier, would he? Because he wouldn't have stuck to his guns. Sounds like the sort of chap who,
it's interesting. Also, but recently he's been diagnosed with ADHD and behavioral difficulties or whatever.
Yeah.
And the thing he says in his show is like, what made me be a rocker or be the guy I am, or was it that made me mess it up every time I got close to being famous? And I like to think it's the ADHD has kind of made him got up on stage and do it, And it's like, without the ADHD, maybe we'd never have got up on stage and done it. So.
Well, I think all these things, like, because there's always been a lot of stigma with it, but I think these sort of things make you who you are, and it's how you deal with them that makes you the person you are. It's like, you wouldn't be yourself without all the other bits. Without all the bits and pieces, you wouldn't be you, would you? So if you took one of them bits away, you'd be a different guy.
It's like me with drinking, I suppose. If I didn't do those years of drinking, although I can't drink now, because I get ill too quickly, and but I've got a lot of stories out of it.
Oh yeah. All them years working, all them ridiculous years of being off my nut. I've got lots of experience to go on when I'm writing.
Writing about drunks. I've kind of stopped doing that now because I wrote so many and being in the drink tank and stuff like that. But every now and again, I'll pop up a story about some drinking and stuff like that. I kind of did that in my first short story collection, Graffiti Stories. It was all about the drinks and the drugs and stuff like that. And I
was looking at that. I was having a look at that earlier. I was just thinking, I'm going to have a good reader. I'm going to have a read of that because that's what I'm up my street.
Yeah, you'll like that one. But that's why I wanted to do with my latest book, Struggle and Strife. I wanted to kind of get away from writing about the underbelly of the working class. And kind of put a more positive spin on it. For the working class win for a change, if you like.
Nice. So it's more the sort of the spirit of the working class as opposed to the demons of the working class.
Yeah. There's some Holocaust stories in there with and the person survives the Holocaust, and there's a bit of lightheartedness in it. Try to make it positive. There's a guy who meets a waffle maker in Berlin who meets a refugee and helps her and stuff like that. And a lot of trade union things, dealing with stuff like in London now, the casual workers, lots of South Americans doing the cleaning. And the old white working class trade unionists are trying to get them into the unions, so that they're not exploited, because there's something like 100,000 cleaners go into the city centre of London every night, and they're all on 0-hour contracts, crap conditions, no health and safety. So the white working class guys who are in the unions are trying to get them organized and stuff. And I think that's
great.
A positive thing. It's kind of making connections between the communities as well in London.
Definitely,
South American, African communities and stuff. So that's what my latest books. I'm pushing my books now. That's what my latest book is about.
Well, that's what you're here for.
It's about the positive side of the working class struggles and everyday struggles and things like that.
Yeah. I saw you've done like a travelogue as well, haven't you?
Yeah, that was I call it a kind of travel book because it's kind of a mixture of, I kind of got into writing through punk, writing lyrics to start with, and then I would write fanzines, or if we did a lot of benefit concerts, my bands, for Oxfam unemployed centres, the miners during the miners' strike, and I always wrote loads of political.
What was your band?
Oh, I was in a few. Evacuate, Rage, Feast of Raish. I was in a few. You'd never heard of us.
No.
Stuff like that.
Doesn't ring the bells, but no.
No. We never had any records out. We kind of.
Oh, right. Yeah.
We only ever did benefit gigs.
Right.
And but from that, I kind of then went got more involved in politics rather than the music side of punk, especially during the miners' strike. And I would always write stuff to give out at gigs. So it was like, yeah, Oxfam is fine, but you know what we need to do is smash capitalism and stuff like that. And then I did a lot of traveling. I went traveling. I've lived in 7 countries, and I did a lot of traveling. So I started doing travel writing about 30 years ago, something like that. 25, 30 years ago. In those days, you could get I had a travel blog, and you could get paid for it, for blogging.
Right.
I got paid for travel blogging. And got paid for writing for travel magazines and stuff like that.
Now everybody just does it on their bloody Instagram or whatever.
Yeah, now you can't get paid for bugger all writing.
No, it's true.
What I decided to do, I wanted to become more creative, so I went back to the UK and I did a WEA, the Workers' Education Association.
All right.
It's they run courses for working class people. It's run by the trade unions, I think. It's WEA, it's called. And they do anything. And they did a creative writing course. And we had this professional writer there. You meet once a week in some community centre. And there was this professional writer there. And she was really great. She really inspired me to write more fictional stuff. And so what I did with the kind of travel book, I put a lot of stories in basically my adventures. There's a lot of drinking stories in there, obviously. It's not like a guidebook. It's more like me getting pissed in Lisbon for 2 years. And
it's a bit more Hunter H. Thompson then.
that kind of stuff. And a couple of essays. And I put in the stuff about like eco travel, ecotourism, and there's about volunteering and NGOs. So there's a lot of political stuff in there as well. My opinions on things I've seen when I've been traveling around the world. Charity work in Africa. I lived in Africa with my wife.
Oh, bloody hell. Right.
And we ran an tourist lodge there. And I hated the charity workers and the NGOs, and a lot of it's a waste of time. So I kind of put political stuff in, but I also put some stories in. I put me in the first ever, not the first ever, but I was in a drink tank in Brno in Czech Republic, and I put that in the story of me in there as a story. I mean, it's not really travel. That's why I say kind of travel book. It was like that was me in the drink tank in Brno. So. So I kind of got that out of the way, and from there, what I like writing short stories better. It's just I suppose it's a bit like punk. It's 3.5 minutes, bang, bang, bang.
I tend to steer more to. I go more short stories, novelettes, novellas, rather than full length things.
Well, I just, it's not that I'm against writing. I just don't feel it inside of me coming out. I mean, the punk novelette is a novella length. It's not, but punk novella sounded rubbish. So punk novelette. It's called punk novelette because it was.
But it's actually a novella. Yeah.
It was short and terse. And kind of written like the old novelettes that they used to sell in Victorian times. I kind of did it in that style. So,
like your Penny Dreadfuls and all that business.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I mean, because a lot of what I write is influenced by people like Lovecraft and all them guys that were doing them sort of like chapbooks and all that kind of.
The chap
thing,
books,
yeah. So
they're quite big in America. Chapbooks,
it's something I didn't even know existed. Like I didn't know the name of it. Yeah. I just knew that. I just knew it was them little paperbacks.
I think it's called they're called the Literary Underground, and look them up. They used to have a Wikipedia page and stuff like that. The Literary Underground, and they do a lot of chapbooks, and they've got real underground kind of press thing. It's called Punk Hostage Press.
Nice.
And they travel around the country and they sell these chapbooks in like souped up old Mustangs with Punk Hostage Press.
That's brilliant.
Painted on the side, and they're kind of the real underground.
The real deal, man. It
was called the Literary Underground. They were one of the first online kind of zines as well.
Mm.
That was where
Well, they're everywhere now. Yeah.
And that was called Thieves Jargon, and that was 25, 30 years ago. That was kind of when the internet started, and they would that was real underground stuff. And I found that I had a couple of pieces on there, my short stories, and I found them more open to different kinds of writing rather than in the UK. There weren't no kind of. There are kind of literary magazines online now.
Yeah.
But, before, 20 odd years, 30 years, it was the old school tied closed network.
Yeah. I mean, like the indie presses and things is something that's not actually been around that as long as you would think. Before that, it was all.
Not in the UK. There's never kind of been that literary underground, has it?
No.
It was in America, and I mean the Beats in the 50s.
The Pulps and all the rest. Yeah.
Yeah,
but we never got it over here.
No, we didn't have it. I mean, I can't think, even in the 60s, I can't think of there was no kind of underground writers kind of movement in the UK, where there definitely was in America,
Well, it's interesting because the writers we had ended up going with American underground publishers, like people like Ramsey Campbell and Brian Lumley. They ended up like going with Arkham House and people like that over in the States because there was nothing over here.
Yeah, was that Scottish beat guy? Oh, I forgot his name now.
Oh.
Begins with the T. I can't remember his name. But he was kind of with Kerouac and taking heroin and stuff like that. And oh God, he had a film. They made a film of one of his books with Ewan McGregor, set on a barge in Glasgow. Oh God, I can't remember his name. Sorry, but he kind of.
I know who you mean, but I can't think of it either.
He kind of had to make his name in the underground in America rather than the underground in England. There was no underground in England, really. Kind of. Yeah, I can't think of any kind of underground writers. I kind of think, who did you have? You kind of working class writers, Alan Sillitoe. Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner. Kez, I suppose. Who wrote Kez? I forgot who's wrote Kez now. Two writers who can't remember any other writers' names talking, having a chat on YouTube about other writers they don't know the name of. But they kind of Sillitoe and people like that, they were the only kind of working class writers, but there was no kind of you never saw any literary magazines, did you? You had to go to W.H. Smith's, and you had to really kind of find them and look for them. I remember when I started writing before the internet, and I was kind of looking at, like, are there any literary magazines? Where can you get things published? And
well, it was interesting because when I was growing up, all the ones that I was reading and all the rest of it, they were all American ones that the guys have imported. Things like Weird Tales and all that kind of stuff. It was all imports. You had True Detective and all that.
It's interesting why we never had it. It's interesting why we never had an underground literary movement, especially when punk come around. I suppose you had the fanzines.
Yes, I was gonna say that because we had, like, in the goth scene as well. I mean, it was all fanzines. Yeah, that was that's what because the mainstream music press didn't want to know. So it was all do-it-yourself fanzines. It was photocopies down the library and stapled together and sold at gigs and that kind of business.
It was the same with the punk in the punk era as well. But there were never any stories published, were there, or poetry and stuff like that?
No, well, we did get poetry in the goth ones because you did get a lot of amateur poetry, and you used to get people handing out their like, again, it was like chapbooks, I guess. Of poetry where they basically photocopied and stapled them together and do you want to read my poetry, things like that. I mean, that was cool.
But like the punk fanzines were all about the music. There was never any kind of like underground writing, which is kind of a surprise really that with that punk era and goth and all,
especially because you had people like I mean, because obviously you had people like poetry, you had people like John Cooper Clarke and people like that.
We did have John Cooper Clarke. Attila the Stockbroker as
Attila
well.
the Stockbroker. Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, there you go.
Still going. Still
I
going.
know.
Yeah, he was a great guy. I remember seeing him in Leicester, I think it was, De Montfort Hall. And he come on and we were the only kind of punks there. There was about 10 of us or something like that. The rest were all students in long Macs, like fucking Ultravox or something like that. And and he come on and started taking the piss out of all the students and got bottled off. We were all like, hooray! And he bought us all fish and chips after the gig.
Oh, good man.
But it's interesting that we never, out of all that kind of underground, because we kind of led the way with music and kind of and youth culture scenes, from mods and rockers and goths.
Yeah, I mean, like even with your prog rock and everything, it was all bloody British, wasn't it? It was all like Floyd and Crimson and all that. But,
well, even now there isn't really an underground scene, is there, in the UK? I don't know. Well, I don't think so. I don't live in the UK, so.
It's a funny one because, I mean, with the internet and everything, it's all out there, but it's kind of all it's all what the popular non-chart stuff is, all what I would still call mainstream. It's all the stuff that's in the NME. It's all like your Long Raincoats and your indie groups,
Right.
There's no, I mean the punks are still there, the goths are still there, the metalheads are still there. But there's no big scene now. A movement, that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
There's no, yeah.
Yeah, but it's got better. I know there's Short Stops is a website that shares, is a UK website that shares other literary magazines, put you in touch. Short Stops, if you go on there, it's got lists.
Right. I'll have to check that out, yeah.
Yeah, shortstops.co.uk, I think it is, and they have lists of all the literary magazines, most of them based in the UK, and there are loads of them. So I think it's got better in the last kind of, in the last kind of 10 years. I would say 10 years ago, I was only getting kind of my short stories published in American magazines.
Yeah,
but in the last kind of 10 years, it's got a lot better. There's I think it's Spillwords. You know Spillwords? You must know Spillwords.
I know Spillwords, yeah.
Is that? Yeah. I think that's UK based, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure because I know there's the Ghastling is UK. Yeah, I mean the with the literary magazines and things like that. I think one of the things with the UK ones is they never seem to be around for that long. Yeah,
that's true. They do come and go quite a bit. Yeah. And you've got the old ones like Granta, which is terrible to try. They never bloody take your stuff unless it's John Updike like kind of thing, or Virginia Bloody Wolf or something like that.
Yeah, you'd be better off sending to Woman's Weekly. It's the same sort of thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But I notice in Ireland, Ireland seems to be a lot better. There was a book of working class Irish writers, an anthology was out recently, and it's doing really well. It's selling really well, and
excellent.
They seem to be a lot more kind of on the ball in Ireland and stuff like that. But I'm with are you with Breaking Rules Publishing Europe?
Yes,
is your publisher, right? Because they're based in the UK and Ireland, aren't they now? So
well, because David and Derek are over in Ireland. I was going to say, actually, funny enough, David Green, because he recently had something in an Irish magazine. Because your punk novelettes with Breaking Rules, isn't it? And Struggle and Strife.
And Graffiti Stories was published by another company, right? And then I had some trouble with them, like you always do, and
it happens, doesn't it?
I then self-published it, and then they've reissued it. Breaking Rules Europe have reissued it. So I've got three.
No, the good guys.
three
I
books.
know. I wanted David and Chris, a couple of them really close mates of mine. So yeah, they're good guys. It's just
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, I edited a magazine or e-zine, if you like, called Jotters United, and that came out of there was a really good writer site called Jottify, and that was oh god, that was some years ago now. But it was
I don't know it, but probably before my time.
It was a really great site, and it was a really great community, and you could get your stories on there, and they were kind of peer reviewed as well as public reviewed and stuff like that.
Right.
And it was great. And they first published my travel book. And when he started getting into the books, he published a few of them. There's only a few of us. But he kind of got overloaded, and he was a bit of a chancer, this guy, and he wrapped it up, and everyone we wanted to take it over. We offered to take it over,
right.
But he wouldn't let us do it.
His baby kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, I quickly set up a Facebook group called Jotters United so that we could all keep in contact. And from the Facebook group, I decided, well, why don't we do a magazine, a fanzine, just publish some stories. We're still online. I haven't published anything for about a year for about, but it was still online. I used to do one a month, but one a month was quite a lot of work. Because I had to do all the artwork as well, and I got lots of artists putting their videos and photographs and artwork on as well. But it was a lot of work just doing that. Even to get one out a month was kind of, and doing your other stuff as well, your everyday life, your writing life.
Exactly. It's like you've got to live. You've got to do your own writing and all the rest of it.
Yeah, and I kind of thought about, well, could we become a small publisher? And I was kind of like, I don't have the money to do it, because I think you have to really kind of do it full time. And if you're not getting paid enough for it, you're not selling books, how are you going to live? You know what I mean? I've got a kid. And
exactly.
I decided not to go in that direction, really, because I don't think I could have put all my the amount of effort that's needed.
Well, I think that's the thing. I mean, the smaller publishers that succeed are the ones that put their nuts on the line and really go for it. It's the ones that are sort of half in, half out. I've seen so many that just collapse under the strain of themselves and just.
I think I should read more of the Breaking Rules European ones, actually. It's kind of, we have to do more book swaps, I think, so we can review each other's work and stuff like that.
Yes, that's a good idea. Yeah, because reviews are so up.
You send me your books, and I've sent you two of mine. You send me yours.
Yeah.
If we like them, I always say this to people. I just had a Canadian-Irish writer contact me through somewhere, and she said, would you like to do a book swap? And I said, okay, yeah. So I sent her a Kindle version of mine and hers, and her first book I really liked, and I said, look, if I don't like it, I'm not going to review it. I'd rather not do a review than do a bad review. I just won't do a review, because I just don't want to be that kind of person doing bad reviews. I'm not a professional reviewer, and her stuff was kind of romantic fantasy, which I have no idea if it's good or not. I mean, and actually, I didn't like her second book. Her first book was really well. The first book she sent me, which is her latest one, you can see how she's developed, was really good. Really well written. Not my cup of tea, but I could see it was well written, so I could write a decent review. She sent me one of her earlier ones, which was more romantic and like flowery, and I kind of said, I don't really like this, but I wrote a review of the good things I could find inside the book that she did, and I sent it to her. Is this okay? Look, before I put it anywhere, are you happy with that? I don't want to put anything that you've been not.
Yeah. You don't want to be an arsehole, do you?
No, I'd rather not review, and I mean, what do I know about romantic fantasy? Nothing.
No, this is it. I mean, I've had people ask me if I wanted to read stuff of theirs, and I was just like, I couldn't review it because I know nothing about that genre. It's not my cup of tea.
Yeah, you can kind of tell though. It's kind of, I could tell from the books, the last book she sent, the first book she sent me, which is her latest book. You could tell that she's developed a craft, and her writing had got a lot more tighter.
Yes.
And a lot better and a lot less flowery. The descriptions were like bang, 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 and I was like, okay, this is kind of well written, stuff like that. That's I never went to university, but my day job, although it's dried up now, for the past 3 years I've been working for a Czech publisher.
Oh, okay.
And I do abridged and adapted versions of the classics.
I read that in your bio on Amazon. Yeah.
Actually,
like Orwell and stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah, actually, if you go to some of the Czech sites, it's got it's called "Big Brother is Watching You" by Nick Gerrard, adapted from 1984. So if you Google 1984 in Czech, you get me come up. Did an adapted version.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So but I've had to do. Oh God, I've had to do Virginia Woolf, who I can't stand. I've done Anna Green, Bloody Gables.
Oh God,
it's not the proper title, but Dostoevsky I've done, which is good, But it's kind of like I feel it's kind of like my university, because I'm having to read. I would
read
never
all the classics. Yeah.
I would never read Virginia Woolf. You know what I mean?
No.
But I had to read it, and I had to.
I think we did it at school. I think we did it at school for my It was one of them things.
Mrs. Dalloway, awful thing. I mean, I really enjoyed editing Orwell and Steinbeck because I like those.
Yes.
So it's kind of a privilege that I was editing Orwell. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was going to say that's a cool thing to put on your CV, isn't it? That you've you've done.
But because of COVID, these books are basically for sale in Central Europe for non-native speakers. They're not. Well, they're not. I suppose they are simplified. They're shortened. I don't.
Yeah, they're abridged.
I don't simplify Orwell and make your sentences. Well, now and again, if something is really kind of like that nobody would understand, I kind of would change the sentence a little bit. But basically, I just cut it down and stuff like that. But the market's dried up now, so because of coronavirus, not so many people are buying books. Strangely enough.
Yeah, I found that really weird, but I told you it's really funny because my first publication was in December of 2019.
Okay.
So I had all these grand plans for 2020. It's like, right, I'm going to take my books on the road. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Do the other. No, you're not. No, that's why I ended up doing all this stuff online. Was just trying to find a way of because there's so many people out there. You've got to sort of stand on a box and wave a bit, haven't you? To try.
Oh yeah. You've got to do as many interviews as possible. I've done some strange. I did an interview with an Indonesian guy. It was really funny. It's on YouTube somewhere, and he had such a crappy internet because he's got all these bits of wires up in Manila, right? And so he sent me his what we had to do. I had to record me, and then he records him, and and he got the two videos as if it's live, and I'm answering the questions that he'd already sent me, and it's quite funny actually. So you do anything to prostitute yourself, won't you?
Oh God, yeah. It's really funny because I've had people ask me because I do all these live things on because again it was just trying to think of some way. Because I was going to go around to the local bookshop. I was going to go to this horror convention and that show and this thing and that thing. And I couldn't do any of it. So I was just trying to think of a way of doing it. And I get people actually asking me, so, have you got any advice? And it was just like, swallow any shame that you might have. You've got to be shameless. Just sort of look at me.
And you've got to be everywhere, haven't you? Instagram and bloody Twitter and
Twitter.
I mean, people think they write a book and the publisher is going to do all the work, but they just don't do it anymore. I mean, even, you know, I was listening to Joanne Harris, you know, who wrote Chocolat.
Yes, yeah.
Who's, you know, a really well-known writer, and she was complaining that she has to do all her own promotion and everything like that. And I was like, oh, I should stop complaining then. I thought it was just because we were with small indie presses, but actually, even if, you know, someone like Joanne Harris has to do her own promotion and stuff like that. I suppose Stephen King and J.K. Rowling don't have to do it, but they're about the only two, I think.
Yeah, no, it's right that, because I mean, Matt Ruff, I saw an interview with him. You know, he'd just done Lovecraft Country, and he had the thing made on TV and all the rest of it. And he was still going around doing the interviews and the blog circuits and all the rest of it, the same as me.
Yeah.
You know, because I guess you got to, you know.
You got to, yeah. It's not like the old days, I suppose. Yeah.
No. Gone are the days of the advances you could live off.
Yeah, it would be nice, wouldn't it, to have an advance? Yeah. That's a dream. We can dream. We can dream.
We can dream, mate. We can bloody dream. Yeah. Excellent. Right. I should start wrapping this up.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, tonight I've been talking to Nick Gerrard. We've talked about all kinds of things. Speaking of his latest collection, which is called Struggle and Strife, if you want to get hold of it, type in that universal link. There will be a graphic underneath, which is better written than my handwriting, and it will also be under the YouTube video. So, yeah, getbook.app/struggle_strife, and that'll take you to that collection.
Okay.
Punk Novelette, which is something I have got a copy of, and I'm looking forward to it. That's getbook.at/punk_novelette. Like I say, Callum makes them all look fancy, but I started off with the cardboard, and I like to keep the cardboard, you know.
Nice.
It's going to keep your roots in it. You do it
old
yourself.
Old school, mate.
Hell yeah. And yes, if you want to check out this man's website, which I did earlier, and there's some good stuff on there. There's Nick Gerrard author.wixsite.com. That's Nick Gerrard author.wixsite.com. Excellent. Well, thank you for coming on, mate.
That was great. It was a great chat.
Yes,
like being in the pub.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole point of this. Yeah. I don't like them interviews. I've been on some myself where there's like the questions that they could have just given you a questionnaire and you could, you know.
Yeah, radio stations are a bit like that. I've done a few radio stations.
Yeah, I've had a couple of radio ones, and it is just like, yeah.
You can see
standard questions. And then they give you the curveball one at the end. Like, so what's your favorite color? Oh my God, what do you think it is?
I was interviewed by the Travel Book for Talk Radio Europe, which is based in Spain, I think, somewhere like that. And it's English language. And this guy was your typical Tony Blackburn kind of DJ. I mean, he played some crappy music.
Smashy and nicey.
Oh God! And he came on, but actually, he was quite a nice guy. But I just think
smashing.
He's not the kind of guy who would read about getting in a drunk tank in Brno. You know, I couldn't believe. I couldn't believe that he'd read it, and he had read it because he asked me questions about it. And so, but yeah, that was a strange interview, but quite good.
Brilliant. Right. Yeah. Thanks, mate.
Okay.
And thank you
Thanks
all
for having me on.
Yes. You should come back at some point next time you got something out or whatever. We'll come back.
28 Flash, when the 28 Flash is out.
28 Flash, yeah. Come on then. We'll carry on where this left off. That's been great. I've enjoyed this. And thank you all for watching. I'll be with you sort of next week-ish, whenever, when they're ready. Take it easy, people.